Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all well. You know, once a month, for no logical reason, I suddenly become irrational and I have a very short fuse and I have literally no patience with complete and utter nonsense. Today is one of those days. I've been reading a lot of the messages that I have received from you. I've had feedback from so many people who are in a state of panic about what is going on. And literally just rolling back over the last year is enough to set me off. But when I see, well, rather when I look at the course of events over the last 2-3 years, how this government took a robust economy that took years of austerity to get where it was, and we end up with these people removing somebody who was voted in and replacing them with a complete and utter moron who was handing out billions of pounds like it was confetti, who then, as Prime Minister, talks to us about repairing the damage that he's done. Has this cretin forgotten that he was the one that put the country in this place to begin with? How does he even have the audacity to show his face in public? He must be completely and utterly shameless to do so. They all are, or must be. Last year, the World Economic Forum published a damning report about our economy, predicting that the UK would enter the deepest and longest recession in history, our punishment for daring to leave the EU. Yet our economy refused to plunge into recession. We do have a very robust economy for the time being, provided these morons don't mess it up even more. And it is Germany that has plunged into the darkness of a deep recession, and the whole of the EU is now in utter panic. And just for the record, I'm not making an argument one way or the other. These are just facts. In the first full year post-COVID, our trade with Europe rose by 17%, just for the record, because many of these people have stirred up so much hate within our country for their political ends. And now they have brought the country to the point where our debt exceeds our GDP, and this is a very, very dangerous time for everyone, not just borrowers. There are many of you out there sitting comfortably without a mortgage, money in the bank or in a pension fund or in stocks and shares, whatever the case may be. You are not as safe as you think you are, because just in the same way as last year, we were being told one story when it was clearly obvious we would be where we are today. Do not forget that just 3 years ago, the Wealth Tax Commission was formed with the agenda of looking at a one-off wealth tax. Now, that report starts off with basing its figures on taking a portion from those worth 10 million or more. But it actually ends with an example of them taking from people who are worth 1 million and upwards. Once they dare to do that, that will be the thin end of the wedge. So whatever you have, whether you owe or whether you don't, you are not safe from these people, because they are leeches and they are out to take as much as they can from everyone, and this is the danger. Many of you may say, well, actually this can never happen. It already has. A few years ago, about 15 years ago, perhaps somewhere around there was a pilot experiment in Italy, where the economy was in dire straits, and they introduced a haircut in disguise. I believe it was termed as some sort of emergency tax on bank balances, and they took half or 1% from everybody's account, and they got away with it. And in 2013, when the banks in Cyprus fell on their knees because they bought a lot of toxic Greek bonds from Deutsche Bank, who got rid of them before they became worthless, they actually had a haircut and they plundered everything over 100,000 euros in all savings accounts throughout the island. Everything. There were people who came to Cyprus, one in particular I can think of, who left there as a refugee in 1974. He returned literally in 2013, I believe 2-3 days before this happened, and he had just transferred 1 million Australian dollars to a bank in Cyprus, and he basically lost the lot, with the exception of the equivalent of 100,000 euros. And once again, he basically left as a refugee. It has been done in a European country in the modern day just 10 years ago. So anybody who thinks that they can't come and take what you have had better think again. The problem is that we are under the illusion that we live in a democracy, and it's nothing of the sort. For example, let's take Northampton North, where I am. Nothing would give me greater pleasure than to actually stand next year or whenever it is, just to make them sweat, just so that I can say exactly what I think about them in the public domain. But looking at the statistics historically, no independent has ever won a seat in Northampton. In fact, no independent has actually even recovered their deposit, because everybody is divided along this brainwashed political line of Labour and Conservatives, and we keep voting in the same morons again and again and again. When will everybody learn? We need to get rid of the whole lot. And despite the narrative, you do not have to be a scholar from Eton who has engaged in illicit acts with animals to qualify to be an MP, a minister, a prime minister. Just the fact that you have actually lived life, the fact that you have struggled to make ends meet, raise children on your own, struggled with all of the obstacles of keeping a teenager on the straight and narrow, that, in my opinion, qualifies you far, far more. Have you been a hairdresser? Have you driven a cab? Have you worked behind a bar? These are the people who understand people far more than this bunch of cretins who actually are so arrogant that they think they can steal from all of us and just get away with it. The choice is yours, and it will be coming soon. And to those of you, young or old, wherever you're from, whatever you believe, you stand. It doesn't matter what you believe. You stand and you make your argument, because that is a democracy. If you believe that we should all identify as Martians, you stand. If you believe that we should hand over the Houses of Parliament to Russia, you stand. No matter what you believe in, you stand, you make your argument, but you must be prepared to take the response to your argument. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody has to stand up for what is happening in this country today, and it is you. And even if you are young, you are 18, you are 19, you are allowed to stand. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure that not all of you are supportive of a life of sitting with our legs crossed, watching Channel 4, eating a veggie burger with a bottle of Lucozade. So prove us wrong, because something needs to change, and it needs to change fast. Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now.